more fuel to that fire as well.
Utah's Kyle Whittingham is the head coach, but it appears at least that there's the thought that at some point down the road when he leaves, whenever that is, it seems like he's doing really well and feels pretty good. Morgan Scalley, the defensive coordinator, he's been at Utah now for, I think it's 17, 18 years, defensive coordinator. He is the head coach in waiting. When I first saw that, I was like, oh, what's going on with Kyle Whittingham? But this is more of a preemptive move. We have seen this before. It did not work out for Will Muschamp at Texas, and maybe in other cases it has.
Well, it worked out for Jimbo Fisher. I mean, in two ways. He won a national championship at FSU, and then, he made more money than is godly possible for being an average coach at Texas A&M, and now he gets to make money for doing nothing. So, man, it's worked out for him. Didn't work out for Will Muschamp. For Kyle Whittingham, though, this is a guy, and we just heard it last week from when we had the Utah play-by-play guy on, is that this is a guy who's practical to a fault. So he's not going to be someone who would, if he thought this was a bad idea, do it, or if he wasn't at least seeing the finish line of what his career is going to be, do it either. It doesn't mean he's retiring right now, but it does mean that, there's a plan in place, and I think it's, keeping on with what they've done under Whittingham, and Morgan Scalley's been there forever and is probably the most likely to easy to keep on what their track is.
Yeah, I mean, this is not the first time we've seen a head coach in waiting. It's also not the first time we've seen Morgan Scalley in this role because he was in line to be the head coach in waiting again for the first time 4 years ago. And then there was a big to-do with racial slurs and text messages, and he got in trouble for that, got severely punished financially, and they backed away from that, and now they returned to it because he's paid his dues or whatever, has got over that. But yeah, this actually happened in 2020, and then that whole situation occurred. But I mean, beyond that, and I say that not to knock him, but just because that's facts, that's just factual. But he is a hell of a coach, and he has been at Utah a very long time, and you hear his name right off the bat when you talk to people about Utah and the program and their recruiting and their development and all those different types of things. This guy's been a stud for a while now. Not surprised that Utah's doing this because I do think that just based on nothing than kind of Kyle Whittingham's comments about realignment and whatnot, it's I just don't know how much longer he is for this world, So to me, this doesn't give you an end date, but it does say that the time sooner rather than later if you're naming a successor, And then again, you could say, well, he did it 4 years ago and he's still coaching and now he's doing it again. So maybe he coaches another 10 years, but I would, lean in the direction of there's a time ticking now on Kyle Whittingham if you're deciding to make this move and name Morgan Scalley your successor once again. But either way, I think Utah fans can rejoice because they know Morgan Scalley and how good he is, and you feel like your future's secure as far as the succession plan goes. So, yeah, cool to see that if you're a Ute, and good on Kyle Whittingham for kind of planning for the future, and Morgan Scalley for, doing what he's done to earn that opportunity.
All right, I'd like to take the Big 12 Media Days, that whole graphic, and move it back a little bit if we can. But they did today release the people, the players, of course, every head coach who will represent each of the Big 12 teams. Yeah, go ahead, Garrett, and put it up. We have a ton to get to. Bruce Feldman, we hit him at 3:30. But here's all the teams. There's, of course, now 16, and you can see the logo. You can then see the head coach at the top, and then there are two different pages of this. We can't wait. We'll be there on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week inside Allegiant Stadium, and also even there on Monday. You have Ollie Gordon, of course, who's going to be one of the favorites for the Heisman Trophy. If you look at page 2 with Baylor among some other schools that have who they have. Colorado, Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, and Shiloh Sanders, and then their punter, Mark Bassett. But there's some pretty good names, and it does. Jalen Daniels from KU, some pretty good names of players who have an impact nationally, you would think, not just in the Big 12.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of surprising that Baylor's not bringing a quarterback again, but maybe that kind of leads into that they're having a competition. I'm very interested to see the show that Deion Sanders and his crew are going to put on when they get there. But yeah, there's a lot of star power available there all across the board.
Well, speaking to the actual star power, I mean, Ollie Gordon is on there. Interesting, Avery Johnson's going to be there from Kansas State. I mean, not interesting that he is the quarterback,
right.
But just, he's young, so you don't know sometimes when they bring along those guys, but he will be there. Taj Brooks, obviously a big-time player from Texas Tech. Cam Rising, Brent Keithy, both returning and will be there as well. You mentioned the Colorado guys, but Noah Fafita and Tedero McMillan and Jacob Manu. I mean, Arizona's got themselves a hell of a contingent. And, Jalen Daniels, KJ Jefferson, RJ Harvey. I think it's going to be a great little setup. Garrett Green from West Virginia. Those are just some of the names that are probably the most recognizable and probably expected to be some of the better players in the league. But there's like 20 other guys as well that I'm not mentioning. So, yeah, when you have a conference that big and everybody's bringing 4 guys, there's going to be a lot of players there. There will be some big-time names that are going to be probably the ones that everybody's, anchoring to get, but we'll have our fair share, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing how Colorado's presence kind of is. I'm looking forward to just seeing kind of a mixture of new teams and new faces, and being in Vegas itself will also certainly be new as well. So, it's going to be very interesting next week.
There's a bunch of star power. People sometimes maybe don't realize that, but there is. I was surprised that didn't Baylor last year have a freshman All-American defensive back who had a couple of big plays? He's not on that list.
Yeah, and everybody,
Caden Jenkins,
yeah.
Everybody does it differently, on what they.
And there could be things that are where you have been working out, and you never know. But I'm not saying that there's a reason he's not there. But I was surprised he was not included.
Yeah, and look, sometimes you'll see somebody on the list, like for example, Colorado has. 3 Sanders, Travis Hunter, who might as well be a Sanders, the way he's been adopted into that family. And then their punter. Yeah. And maybe their punter is a fun, you bring a guy who's got a good personality, who can help sell your team really well. I don't know. But, he got a lot of work last year, too. So, it's going to be good. It's going to be a good time.
All right. Here's Brandon Marcello had this out and puts everything kind of in perspective when it comes to today, the official day for teams joining a conference. Somebody asked earlier about the Pac-12 schools in the Big Ten and also the ACC or the Big 12. That all happens in early August. But there's a timeline of the biggest moves in college athletics. It starts history beginning today. SMU, it's official. We'll hear from Andy Enfield, their men's basketball coach at 3:45. Even Kennesaw State and Army a part of this, but there are the times Big 12 and Big 10 and the ACC Pac-12 schools will be the first couple of days in August. There's no question that Oklahoma and Texas have enjoyed the entry into the conference, and I think I've even seen a lot of fans of the teams who are left over saying, okay, go, bye. We got to start our own thing, but it was the huge story 3 years ago about late July when all of that happened, and now here we are. They are both officially gone.
Yeah, I think this is it's brought about some really funny content. I'll tell you that. Watching today, the SEC Shorts thing was masterful in a way that I can't even describe. And I'm professionally jealous of them in a way that I normally am not of anyone. But they were great, and it's finally here. And to think about all that's happened in 3 years, which is not that long, of something that should, based on what we knew about college football beforehand, have taken a decade to do it's mind-boggling that all this is happening and we're seeing this gigantic shakeup that starts now.
Yes, it's funny to see some of the over-the-top kind of pageantry and just the celebration in general. It's been very interesting to see, how excited everybody is, and especially Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC. Obviously, that's probably the biggest. Not probably, it is the biggest of the moves, and so they've had their fun the last couple of days with all of that. I've seen various other celebrations from other schools as well, maybe a bit more dialed down or just a graphic or whatever the case may be. But yeah, there's a lot of teams and a lot of realizing sort of how much change is going on these past, 24, 48 hours, and also still to come this time a month from now. So, we all knew this was coming, but to see it actually start to fall into place is, it's a very unique and interesting time, and we don't know past the excitement where all this leads these teams. Some of them for the better, some of them maybe for the worse, some of them maybe exactly where they are right now. It all remains to be seen because there was so much buildup just to get all of these teams to this point. So now it's the next chapter, and a month from now we'll close that book on this round of realignment as far as the teams moving this year. But who knows what all continues to happen. But yeah, pretty crazy sequence of a couple of years now starting to find its footing, and it's a brand new world on the other side where we will see Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC, and we will see SMU in a power conference, and we will see all of these former Pac schools in the Big 12, not to mention all of the trickle-down effect to the various other conferences as well. So it's a lot of movement, but it's time to see how all this is going to go.
How much movement? Paul sent this to us today. 33 FBS teams have changed conferences since the Texas and Oklahoma SEC announcement, the Brent Zerneman story back in late July of 2021. 33 teams, from mega names all the way down to many others, including my alma mater at Stephen F. Austin back in the Southland, or New Mexico State, or Jacksonville State, or whoever. It affected 33 programs. And if you think about it, there's 131 FBS programs. 33 of them are changing conferences because of what happened 3 summers ago.
Yeah, so, a quarter of the teams in the country are moving around, and it just keeps going, and it's going to with the ACC, whenever that happens. That's one of those things that feels like it could be tomorrow or it could be a year from now.
Mark Alford posted a spear, Paul. Doesn't that mean they're going to the SEC? That's what I saw 1,000 times.
We're going to get to Florida State, by God. Yeah, but you're right. Yeah.
But that's where we are. It's like they're reading between the lines on every little thing, and it's just that's got to break at some point. But my God, the build up to it at this point is like, all right, let's get to the end of that thing, because we all know what the end is, but we don't know exactly where it lands or when it lands, of course. But yeah, we're at the post an emoji and everybody lose their mind like it's a 5-alarm fire. And I'm just kind of we've done that the last couple summers. And we'll track whatever happens there, but I'm not going to go into the reading of the emojis phase of this all. I'll let everybody else handle that.
I know this is a minor part of that. I would like, as an FSU fan, that the spear be a little clearer. To me, it looks like, you ever been to a party that has fancy hors d'oeuvres? And it's got a pineapple and something else and then something else on it. Or it looks like a shish kebab. It doesn't look like a spear. It looks like a shish kebab.
Right, yeah.
So I would rather it look like an actual spear.
Yeah, it's not like the ones they use for pineapple or whatever. Or you said, or bacon wrap.
Yeah, all right. This is lovely. Thank you. Can you bring more of these over later? That's what I think of when I see that emoji.
Garrett, let's skip. We'll get to that SEC image in a minute about surrounding Texas and Oklahoma. But here is the listen, the Big 12's excited with the 4 teams they have. Everyone's excited about the addition. Some probably wish that there were less or maybe none at all. And the ACC, greatness is becoming greater with Cal, SMU, and the Tree, the Cardinals, Stanford, all entering the conference. Now, that's not the one we're going to talk about, because that is also official. We'll have Andy Enfield again, head coach at SMU, and what this means for the Ponies. Florida State, what a beautiful partner they are for the ACC, that they actually took that image and retweeted it under their account
with their colors.
Welcome.
With their colors.
Welcome.
They're so happy that SMU and Cal and Stanford are coming to the conference. They're so happy that a year ago they voted against it. And then they were so happy that they were coming to the conference that 6 months ago they went to court to get out of that conference that they were in. Now, this is contractually obligated, and there's no reason.
Why?
Why? That's a great question. I don't know why.
I don't think it is.
It was a PR choice. If they do something, we're going to talk about it. If they don't do anything,
we're going to talk about it.
No, yeah. So I think they chose we might as well be nice about it. But I would have just rather had FSU and Clemson not be involved in this at all. And then people go, but it makes more sense for them not to. And look, they have no they have no problem, and that's the thing. It's unfortunate for especially SMU in all of this. Stanford and Cal, I don't feel as bad for because they kind of made their bed. But for SMU in particular, Florida State and Clemson have no problem with SMU. There's no beef with SMU. They have a problem with the ACC before SMU got there, and SMU is just caught in this fight. Like they were invited to the party and showed up, and then there's two guys starting some trouble.
Craig, you kind of over there kind of like grimacing a little bit.
No, first of all, Michael Alford, not Mark Alford. I said Mark Alford.
That's right.
Michael Alford is the FSU AD. But no, Paul just sounds like Oklahoma and Texas fans when they were leaving the Big 12. And I remember when the Big 12, I forget exactly what it was, but they were posting some stuff. I remember like everybody retweeted it but Oklahoma and Texas, and it was like their little brat tantrum of like, we're not taking part in this.
So maybe that's why
so Paul's wanting them to basically be brats and throw a tantrum over to the ACC. And I get it, he's a Florida State fan, but I just feel like if you're feeling like you're on your way out, act how you want to act, but I don't know what the ACC did, quite frankly. This is kind of like, what did the Big 12 do to Oklahoma and Texas? Just not have enough money? I'm sorry, like, not sure what we were supposed to do about that.
You ask them,
I think you've totally misread me, though. On this.
Okay. I'm just saying in general, like that's, like the whole let's be like petty about it. And it's like, it's okay, good. I'm glad they retweeted it. Like, don't be petty about it. Just like, hey, welcome them in. It's not a big deal. Now, if they wanted to make a statement on it, they could make a statement on it. And I guess have not done anything or made a snide comment like that. But that's just what it reminds me of like kind of the Oklahoma and Texas on their way out of like, we're not really going to take part. Like, we'll show up to what we have to show up to because we're obligated to, but we're not going to do anything beyond that to actually promote the conference. And that's kind of what I feel like is the sentiment of a lot of Florida State and even spreading out Clemson, maybe North Carolina fans. They're already like halfway out the door and poo-poo on the ACC. We're better than you, and soon enough you'll see that. And that's just the sentiment I get, not just from Paul and not really from you, but in general, there's kind of that feel in the air now, which I think is, just a testament to kind of where that conference is right now. But I sure hope that it does fizzle out soon, because that's going to be unbearable if this is something that's going to be that way for, 3-4 years or whatever it may be.
Yeah, no, my personal feeling on it is I think it's stupid. I understand where they are, that they have to go make more money if they want to keep up, what we've all come accustomed to and addicted to if your Florida State and Clemson is competing at the highest level. So I get that. Like, I get all that feeling. I wish they didn't have to leave the ACC. The ACC's clearly been very good for both those schools. It has. And I think it's silly. I just don't like forced shows of disingenuousness, which this is. And so this feels very disingenuous to me, of them being like, hey, welcome aboard. We voted against you. We're trying to get out of the league. But yeah, hey, welcome to the party. That's what I don't like. I don't like the, I especially, it feels to me like when Oreo Cookie tweets about like Martin Luther King Day, like, what are you doing? Like,
trying to take advantage of an image campaign.
They're trying to take advantage of it. Exactly. Like,
let me tell you what I don't like about it is that you are disingenuous, of Florida State or whoever. Texas basically just left the conference. I don't know if they ever said thank you. Oklahoma's Joe Castiglione did post something yesterday about the memories of how it all came together when the Big Eight in the Southwest Conference, I guess you could say kind of a merger, because some were left behind. I did see that. It's not like I was looking for it. It just happened to pop up on my timeline. Here's my biggest pet peeve, though, about the conferences adding teams. Anybody that does this is, it just doesn't make sense. Dennis Dodd, I can't wait for Barry Switzer, SEC legend, on the SEC network, because, it's coming. I've got a disc somewhere of Tom Osborne being lauded by the Big Ten network the same way. For example, the SEC saying that Vince Young in Texas.
They did it last night.
Yeah, and the history it's there. That would be like the Big Ten saying that Tommy Frazier's one of their all-time greatest quarterbacks.
Well, who else are you going to, to be fair, if you're showing highlights, what else do you have to show but non-SEC stuff? They've never been in the league before. But, if they're going to pretend like Vince Young's an SEC legend, that's ridiculous. But, if you're showing Texas clips, what else are you going to show?
No, it's not that. Yeah, no, I get it. No, but
they did it with Dat Wynn. Like, they named him like an SEC legend, and he never played a game in the SEC. That's the thing. Like, show like, hey, this is one of the greatest moments in Texas history, and now they're coming to the SEC. But it's not really how it was framed. And The SEC had nothing to do with that day. They weren't even invited to the thing. Mike Slive was probably not even there. Like, why are we, like, I get why you're starting Texas highlights, but frame it as Texas highlights.
Show it all day. That's fine. But
show it all day. They're
when you put it up on a graphic.
But framing it as like, here's SEC legend Vince Young, you're like, no, that's not really how it is. And it's an SEC thing to do. It's a very ESPN Disney thing to do as well. I mean, look, Disney has Star Wars and Marvel now, and if you ask them, they had it in 1977 when George Lucas made the first Star Wars movie, and that's not true at all.
So here's two notes in the Pac-12, which is something that it doesn't need to get overlooked. And Oregon State and Washington State, of course, are still a part of the conference, and God bless those two. They have found a way to continue to survive. They still have an uphill climb, but they are there. But this is not here anymore. If you went to go watch the Pac-12 network, that's the message on the screen.
Yep. So if you actually had a cable provider that had it, then that's what you saw. But,
if you had a cable subscriber, right?
Yeah. I was a DirecTV subscriber for the entire run of the Pac-12 network, so I never once there was only like 2 times where there's a game on where I thought, oh, I'd like to watch this game, and then I was like, oh wait, I don't have it. Okay, well. On to Fresno State then.
I did watch it a couple of times last year during the fall. Craig?
I don't know if I ever even had it. I don't recall. And if I do, then I definitely obviously didn't get enough of an impression from it. That's not a knock. That's just I don't remember. By the way, your tweet doesn't really make sense, quoting Dennis Dodd. SEC legendary quarterback Tommy Frazier. Nebraska's not in the SEC,
that's right.
so that wouldn't really work. But
see, I should never tweet ever. But I shouldn't tweet while I'm doing a show. Like you can't tweet and drive.
Make any sense. But as far as the PAC network goes, I mean, we'll see what becomes of that. I know there's a lot of fans and 2 fan bases that feel like those cameras are worth a lot of money, and there's a lot of money to be used to launch them into a good situation. And I don't know that to be the case. I definitely am not going to tease people and pretend that that's the case when I don't have any clue. It could be that way, but perhaps it is some sort of an alliance of some sort. Perhaps they just tread water for a couple of years. I don't know. But, yeah, for a lot of people who grew up out west or attended those schools, it's a bittersweet day. I think there's a lot of those fans that also are excited. USC fans going to the Big Ten or whatever the other versions you want to use are. I think there are a lot of fans that are excited. But, yeah, it's bittersweet, and I just wish that we could have had that graphic somehow from the future, pulled it into the past, and displayed that about this time last year and what the reaction would have been to say, here's what's coming, even though we basically said that in so many ways, like hinted at it at least and referred to it many times. But to see that actually coming to fruition, I'm not going to pour salt in the wound of Pac-12 fans, but yeah, that was a lot of hubris, a lot of arrogance led to the pulling of the plug on that network. And, a lot of conferences, I think, right now are being very mindful of the miscalculations and the missteps the Pac-12 leadership took last year. So hopefully we don't see anything like that happen again. But, yeah, that was a bad story or a bad way to learn a lesson, I think, for a lot of schools.
Paul, we need to go to Bruce Feldman because Andy Edfield has to be off at 4. He's going to be on the ACC network. So here's an image that was put out by Ghost of Neyland Stadium, of course, in Knoxville. This is with all of not everybody, but most of the teams in the SEC with their swords drawn. And then in the middle it says Texas and Oklahoma don't belong in the SEC. This is going on, and it's been kind of funny. Like, most of it's all been funny, but there's Georgia, there's Tennessee, and of course Texas and Oklahoma have had theirs in response. There's the teams, as they all have the sword around the 2 incoming brethren of the Southeastern Conference, and so it has been